session of the Camden County Board of Education, January 13th, 2022 meeting to order, and ask if everyone will please recognize a moment, or excuse me, let's do consideration of open session agenda changes first. Motion to accept the agenda as presented. Motion by Ms. Idlet to accept the January 13th, 2022 meeting of the Camden County Board of Education. Seconded by Dr. Banks. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Everyone will please recognize a moment of silence. Thank you for your consideration. Public comment.
No one has signed up for
No one
public
signed
comment.
up for public comments. You would join me and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So for our first spotlight tonight, we have Adeline Nahikian. Is a second grade student in Miss Parker's class at Grandy Primary School. And we're spotlighting Adeline tonight because she is the creator of our school system's 2021 Christmas card. We've used the student's artwork for the front of the superintendent's Christmas card for 15 years. In November, Mr. Lazar, the principal at Grandy Primary School, asked second grade teachers to have their students create Christmas-themed drawings. From these drawings, one picture will be selected by the superintendent to be used on the school system's Christmas card. Many beautiful works of art were submitted, making it a very difficult choice, but Adeline's art was especially nice. Adeline, we have framed your card as a keepsake for you, and we have one of your cards framed for Mr. Lazar to add to his Christmas art collection in his office, and your card will also be framed for the central office and displayed with the cards chosen over the previous years. And also your original artwork has been framed for your parents. So Adeline, we congratulate you on being the creator of our 2021 Superintendent's Christmas card. You are very talented, and we thank you for a job well done. Come on forward. Let's see. It's yours, the picture of your card. If you want to hold that, I'll get my mask back on. Very good. I think Mr. Lazar would like to get a picture of it. All right, Mr. Lazar. I have one for you. Anyone didn't get to see it. This is her beautiful artwork. And Santa's on the back. All right.
That's for mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Want Mom and Dad to come up and get this for you? Okay. Very cool. Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now the cross-country track team competes in running events where runners compete in a complete course over open or rough terrain and running 15 kilometers or just over 3.1 miles. Points are earned based upon their finishing order. And as an example, to help understand, is I need to help understand cross country. And if a runner finishes first, the time gets 1 point, or the team gets 1 point, and the team with the lowest score wins the meet. So the 2021 ladies cross country team had a great year this year. And I'd like to ask at this time if you would please come up and join me for your presentation of your board spotlights. Our coaches were Victoria Black and Derek Black. And the 2021-22 ladies cross country team members are Candace Langdon, a senior, Kennedy Lighty, a senior, Victoria Royal, a senior, Keely Williams is a senior, Morgan Bruton, a junior, Emerson Martindale, a sophomore, Twee Wynn, a sophomore, Brianna Cooper, a freshman, Brenna Gutierrez, a freshman, Cadence Geyer, a freshman, and Lillian Santiago, a freshman. And this year, we had a few that made some state winners. Keely Williams, Cadence Langdon, Brenna Gutierrez, Twee Wynn, Emerson Martindale, Cadence Geyer, and Victoria Royal. This year's team, the conference results is they won the conference with a score of 45 points, which is 2 points ahead of their number 2 finisher. And the regional results was won with a score of 42 points and 44 points ahead of the number 2 finisher, East Duplin. And they finished 7th out of 16 teams in the state. This group of seniors members have earned 4 conference championships, 2 regional championships, and 2 regional runners-up. Congratulations, very good job. And we'd have board spotlights for each of you. This is Victoria Black.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Black.
Thank you.
She's not here.
I'll take it. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Williams.
I'll take that one as well. Thank you.
Bruton. Ms. Martindale.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cooper. Brianna. Brenna.
Thank you.
Geyer. Cadence. And Santiago.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Very good job.
Hey guys, keep space out so I can get a picture and see everybody and hold your,
Can you like get on?
your girls. I know you know how to. Get ready to get, obviously, and get a picture.
Yeah.
I'm kind of short. I'm short too. Absolutely not. Wait, geez.
How about the front, you go like this?
I had like that yesterday. Do you want me right here?
You're just sitting down here. No, you got it.
All right, exactly.
We got this. Took us a little bit.
And I'll post this, moms and dads, if you want to get it, or you're welcome to get up here and get it as well.
They come.
All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good job. 1, 2, 3. Go team. Yeah, they run individually. Good job. All right.
Which piece, Mom? Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Now, could Cynthia Johnson please join me? Hello, Cynthia. So Cynthia is a 10th grade student at Camden Early College High School. And by way of background, I'll begin by sharing that in North Carolina, the forest products industry plants more than 60 million trees each year, and those trees are turned into more than 5,000 wood and paper products that we use and enjoy each day. In 1960, Congress passed a resolution during the third week of October to focus attention on the importance of our forests and forest products to the nation's economy and welfare. To celebrate the 2021 Forest Products Week, the North Carolina Forestry Association, along with its sponsors, hosted a statewide essay contest in October to help students draw the connection between our forest and everyday products. Camden Early College science teacher Rick Lag shared this information with students for the opportunity of competition. Once Cynthia decided to compete, she took a Green Job Youth personality quiz, and from that point, she composed her essay inspired by a newfound interest in soil science. We have learned that more than 141 essays were received for this contest from 53 schools across the state. All essays were graded by a panel of judges using a standardized analytic rubric, which required the student to cite evidence to support essay content and use the multiple information sources. And in the end, the judges were looking for a thorough essay that expressed the contestants' creativity, ideas, and thoughts. In late November, the North Carolina Forestry Association notified Mr. Lag that Cynthia had been selected as the 2021 high school winner for the North Carolina Forestry Association's Forest Products Week Essay Contest. As a winning essayist, Cynthia received a $200 Visa gift card, a North Carolina Forestry Association wooden trophy, and a certificate for framing. And since Mr. Lag was her science teacher at the time the essay was written, he received a $100 Visa gift card for classroom materials and a scholarship to attend the 2022 Sustainable Forestry Teachers Experience. So, Cynthia, on behalf of the Camden County Board of Education, I congratulate you on having created an essay that received the top honor. You should be very proud of your accomplishment, and your school district is very proud of you. Congratulations. And I like your interest in soil science. And at this time, if Mr. Black from Camden Early College would like to come join me at the podium. Mr. Black is going to represent Camden Early College High School tonight to receive an award. And in late November, Dr. Farrell received a letter from Catherine Truitt, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, and Eric Davis, Chairman of the State Board of Education. And in this letter, Camden County School District was congratulated because Camden Early College High School had achieved commemorable graduation results for the class of 2021 with an outstanding graduation rate of 97.8%. Superintendent Truitt said, ensuring that every student who starts ninth grade finishes with a diploma and is well prepared for the challenges of college or a career is one of the highest goals that our state and nation strive to achieve. So enclosed with the letter of congratulations was an achievement certificate, which can be framed and proudly displayed at Camden Early College High School as a reminder of the rigorous and important work accomplished by students, staff, and administrators. In addition to displaying the certificate, Camden Early College High School will be able to display a website graphic that can be used on the school's website or on printed materials such as banners or t-shirts. So on behalf of the Camden County Board of Education, I would like to congratulate you along with the Camden Early College High School staff and students on this great achievement. Attaining a commemorable graduation rate is never an easy achievement, but it is important to note that this past year presented especially difficult challenges for students, staff, and parents, and we're pleased to display the certificate proudly because it speaks to Camden Early College High School's outstanding commitment to our students and a job well done. So we thank you very much. And so we have enclosed the letter that came from our Department of Public Instruction and also the certificate for display.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Very good. Congratulations.
I'm just gonna move my mask
Yeah.
out at this point.
We won't break
Thank
the
you.
15-minute rule.
Thank
Thank you
guys.
very much. Dr. Farrell, open session to appear.
No one has requested to appear.
Thank you. Item 2 is the consent agenda. Motion is made by Ms. Eilert to accept the consent agenda,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Purcell. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Information updates, new high school project. Representative from MB Con and Mosley Architects. They didn't write you on here.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Yes.
Rick, I asked that we call him in case you all have any questions.
This is like a phone a friend kind
Yeah.
of moment.
Your call. He said he would only answer questions. Okay, I'm gonna put you on speaker.
All right, we'll get started. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having us again for another update. I'm Maggie Dittmar. I'm with MBCon. I'm obviously not Rick, who is here via phone. He wasn't feeling well today. He sends his apologies. He decided that due to the environment of the world right now, it would be best if he did not come here not feeling well. And this is Ashley Dennis, as you know, with Mosley Architects. So first, I'm going to start with some good news. So the state has allowed counties and districts that have previously applied for grants for their projects to consider reapplying, and they will be considered for potentially a higher grant award. Specifically for high schools, the maximum award that counties and districts could receive now has been increased to $50 million. This is really great news. You all know the market that we're in right now. We've really tried hard. Ashley's done a great job designing a project, but the market's really tough right now. So this potential extra grant funding could come in really handy, not only to cover the market cost, but also to potentially add back additional scope that we previously had to cut. Some of the things that we had to cut were the auditorium, an auxiliary gym, and then we're even looking at potentially trying to squeeze in and add alternate for those future classrooms that we've shown on the drawings. Obviously, it depends on what grant you receive, so we'll have to adjust the scope to whatever you get, but ideally we would like to be able to add back what we can. With that change, so in going to apply for the grant, there is going to be a schedule shift. The grant applications are due in March, and we won't know what the new grant award will be until April of 2022. So Ashley is going to need some time. If you do get more money and we are able to add back some scope, she's going to need some time to be able to add back some of those items in her design. So we've shown that here. We've allotted from March of 2022 to October of 2022. We've planned for board review and approval from both the Board of Education and the Board of Commissioners. So we hope to have that by December. And then we will actually get to go out and bid this project, hopefully, in December through March, and then construction starting in March of 2023, and hopefully get your students in by December of 2024. So it would be a mid-year opening in this scenario. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley for a design update.
So one thing that we wanted to do, and this was previous to even the grant information coming out, was just to each board meeting start rolling out some images of the interior of the building. We've talked a lot about the layout. We've talked a lot about the exterior, but we haven't really started looking at the inside of kind of what those approved layouts look like. And so this is just to remind you, because it's been a little while. We all had Christmas and holidays, and we've forgotten what we looked at. So this is that the frontage of the high school and just what it could look like. And then this is the layout of the building as it is now. And one thing I would note from what Maggie has presented prior with these additional fundings, we're not talking about changing all of this. What we're really talking about is adding in those dotted spaces. So adding in the future auxiliary gym, adding in the future auditorium, and the classroom wing is that one that we've talked about many times, kind of at the upper portion of the plan. So those would be the things you would start seeing change if the additional funding were available or becomes available. But all of the exercises we've gone through and all the many discussions would not change. So just moving through, these are the spaces that I wanted to talk to. And I figure, one, these take a lot of time. So we're going to kind of roll these out slowly so that you can digest piece by piece along the way. But and there's some really fun little dots on here, but we'll just ignore those. So this is the looking in from, and I'm gonna walk away from the mic for a second, looking in from the student area, the entrance. And so this is looking at your dining commons kind of there to the left, and then that main connector corridor back towards the main entry piece. And so this would be a really dynamic space, really open, high ceilings in there. And then this is a space we've talked a lot about. These are the extended instructional areas. So your classroom doors and the little small breakout rooms are what you see kind of along the edges, and then some teaching walls and some collaborative furniture within those spaces. Kind of tucked to the left of that image is like a wet wall with sinks and things like that. So this can be a space for all different kind of projects and project-based learning. And then you can see out towards the far end of the picture, that roll-up door that can roll up into the exterior teaching areas. So those are just two of the spaces that we've talked a lot about, but I know it's hard. I can look at a floor plan and start visualizing things, but sometimes it's hard to be able to visualize that if you don't do that every day. So we wanted to start bringing these renderings in to give you a better sense of what these spaces look like in 3D. And we want to continue this conversation throughout as we move through this year to show you more and more of these spaces and get some feedback along the way. So.
Do you guys have any questions about, Dr. Farrell is actually going to go into a little bit more detail about the grant, the application, and the process. But if you have any other questions for us. No? You're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ashley, will you continue to send us pictures kind of as you get them?
Yes, and that is our goal. Like I said, they do take a lot of time, so I don't want to send you things that aren't created. So if you have suggestions of spaces that you would like to see in next meetings, some of the spaces that we're considering in the next go round is your courtyard space. So even though it's not interior, it's a space we haven't really shown you what that could look like. And then some of our CTE labs spaces to start showing what something maybe from just our more traditional classroom spaces look like. So if you have any other suggestions, you can either share those with me or pass them on to Dr. Farrell, and he can share them with me as we start generating those for future board meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Any questions for Rick before we let him go feel better? Rick, you there?
I am here, and I can't imagine there would be any questions. Maggie and Ashley did such a good job.
Yes, they did.
All right, good deal. I hope you feel better soon.
Well, I will, and if y'all have any questions when we get to the grant section of the agenda, please call me back.
Okay, definitely. Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you. All right. Student board member updates.
So for GPS, they're now up to 585 students, and they have more on the way next week. January 28th, they'll be taking class pictures. On February 2nd, GPS will be celebrating the 100th day of school. They have very exciting plans for that. CIS, they had a busy December celebrating on fun run prizes. They reached their goal of 25,000. Students voted that the administration dressed as chickens, and students got to sling string. Last week, we celebrated our students of the quarter with an ice cream party. They will be selling candy grants for students and parents to purchase for Valentine's Day. CMS, the Club Council and Beta Club sponsored a Christmas door decorating contest and celebrated the 12 days of Christmas the week before Christmas break. They had a smooth start to the second semester. In just a few weeks, students will be taking the second math, English, and science NC check-ins. There are only a few weeks remaining for winter sports. The boys and girls conference basketball playoff tournament started the first week of February.
For the high school, they would like to congratulate, their FFA livestock judging teams who took first place senior team, first place middle school team, and had the first and second place highest scoring individuals in both categories. The Honor Society, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. All right. The Honor Society collected, wrapped, and delivered tons of shoe boxes filled with essential items to the local nursing home before Christmas.
They had exams the last several days before Christmas. We had several clubs and organizations participate in both the Elizabeth City and South Mills Christmas parades. Our band, in combination with the 6th and 8th grade students, put on a performance for their Christmas concert, and art students hosted a show in the lobby for all attendees to enjoy. Later this month, we will work with our CEC to give tours to CMS 8th grade students, as well as have students and teachers travel to the middle school to set up information sessions during lunches to prepare students for their freshman year. Our Bruin basketball teams will participate in the ECSU Border Clash on January 17th, and our swim team will participate in the swim conference meet on January 21st. For CEC, they celebrated Spirit Week the week of December 14th through the 18th. Students wear their Christmas socks, hats, ugly sweaters, and dressed in their PJs for one day and dressed like Santa for another. CEC started their semester test December 14th and ended December 20th. CEC is preparing for 8th grade night at CMS, 8th grader tours, and starting the application process for next year. CEC hopes everyone had a wonderful Christmas, and lastly, they would like to recognize one of their very own. They would like to congratulate Derek Black for completing his doctoral degree in leadership with an emphasis on student services from the University of Cumberland in Eastern Kentucky. Congratulations, Dr. Black. They are so very proud.
Thank you. In your board packet is our monthly financial update. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none, we'll move to the action agenda. Item A is the North Carolina 2021-22 Needs-Based Public School Capital Fund application. Superintendent Farrell.
So some of the information Maggie has already shared with you, but as you know, a few years back, we applied for and received a little over $12 million from the Needs-Based Public School Capital Fund. With the passing of the recent budget at the state level, a lot changed with that application. And so the first thing I did was reach out to my contact at NCDPI to say, hey, can we get any more money? Since we've already had two grants really from them at a much smaller amount. And we do qualify. And so I guess the guidance was issued in the middle of December. as far as the application being released. The deadline for the application is March 15th. I think Maggie's already shared some of that. We have worked on it. Thank you to Anita for lots of hard work on getting it ready to send to MBCon. And so we got that complete in my office and sent it on to them. And the main thing we were asking from MBCon is an updated budget and an updated timeline. She shared the timeline with you tonight. She's going to send some information to me tomorrow in reference to the budget. We are, the maximum award changed significantly. It was $30 million for an elementary school, $40 million for middle school, and $50 million for high school. And so obviously you all have worked unfortunately, to remove things like the auditorium, as Maggie shared, the auxiliary gym, and some other things, and to get this to be a project that was within the budget that we had at the time. And so if we are able to get more money, then some of those things can be added back, which of course will make it a much higher dollar figure as far as the total. So once we get all of that information as far as the new budget is concerned, we will, tonight, what I'm asking for is your approval to submit this application to ask for the $50 million. And then if you all grant that permission, then we will get the budget information and the timeline information added. Some things that are already in there. It's pretty similar to what it was before when we got the grants. We did add some things like aerial photos to show kind of the landlocked area here where we are, some information from the long range facility plan, and some other things like that to just kind of really drive home the point that we really need to build this high school for our students. And so if you all approve that tonight, then we'll get the budget information added and the timeline information added. And then we will turn this over to Mr. Bowman with the county manager's office and ask that he take it to the county commissioners at their February 7th meeting. And if they approve it, then we will be ready to move forward and submit by March 15th. And surprisingly, I think Mr. Heath mentioned earlier when we were chatting before the meeting started that, originally I think the award announcements were in October or November. Well, these are in April, so we don't have to wait very long to find out if we're getting more money, and if so, how much we will get. So my request of you tonight is to approve giving us permission to move forward to submit the application once we pass it on to county government.
Motion by Dr. Banks to accept the superintendent's recommendation to submit application for the North Carolina 2021-22 needs-based public school capital fund application. Seconded by Ms. Idlet. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Face coverings policy 4231.
All right. So as you know, the board is required by law to, thank you, Ashley. The board is required by law to revisit every month now the face coverings policy. I'll remind you that at the our December board meeting, you all voted to that mask would become optional for Camden County schools as of January 18th, 2022, with the condition of a 10% threshold of quarantine rates, which will make masks mandatory in that particular school building, and that fractions would be rounded up when counting cases of the total population. As a reminder, the total population is student and staff. And so I wanted to first remind you of where we currently are, and then I want to share some information with you as far as numbers that were hot off the press until I was walking out of the office, and 3 of the nurses emailed me and added 6 more quarantines, but I did not factor those into the numbers, so they're sprinkled across the the district. But as a reminder, at Grandy Primary School with students and staff, we have 666 people. And at CIS, we have a total of 448 people. At CMS, 311 people. At Camden County High School, 518. And at Camden Early College, 146. So if you look at the 10% rule there with the total population, 67 would be the 10% threshold for Grandy, 45 for CIS, 32 for CMS, 52 for Camden County High School, and 15 for Camden Early College. So right now, as of today, currently in quarantine, whether positive or in quarantine due to exposure, we have 23 students from Grandy and 2 staff members for a total of 25. And as a reminder, the 10% would be 67. We have last week at this time, or during the first week of returning from break, we were at 19. So there was an increase in week 2 from 19 to 25. At CIS, we have 25 students in quarantine and 4 staff for a total of 29, and their 10% threshold is 45. Last week, the first week back from break, we had 17 in quarantine. So there was an increase for week 2 as well. For CMS, we have 23 students in quarantine, 3 staff members for a total of 26. Last week, we had 14, and their threshold is 32. So we're getting there at the middle school to the 10%. At Camden County High School, we have 27 students in quarantine and 2 staff for a total of 29. That was up from 12 last week, and their 10% threshold is 52. And then at Camden Early College, we have 9 students quarantined and 2 staff for a total of 11. That's up from 3 last week, and their threshold is 15. So at the middle school and the early college, we are approaching the 15 or the 10% threshold to remain or to go to masks required for a time period. I want to also share with you real quickly, this is not necessarily directly related, but it certainly impacts what's going on in our schools. I asked our principals today, tell me what's been going on with substitute teacher situations due to staff quarantines. And I just want you all to have that in your minds as you're talking about all of this tonight. Mr. Lazar shared that since returning from break, he had to work to cover 2 full-day absences and 3 half-day absences where there was no substitute available. Ms. Byram at CIS shared that they have been pretty strapped for substitutes there. She described it as playing a chess game of covering classes. Most of the week, she said, I've had at least 1 or 2 vacancies with no subs. She has an EC teacher that has not had a sub all this week. And she said we've had no fewer than 4 absences in as many as 7 or 2 and as many as 7 in a day. At the middle school, Mr. Reeves said that it actually has not been too bad for them. He has Mr. Gardner on his campus, who is our AOP teacher, and he does not have any students right now. So he's been able to move him around as needed. But he said that they are managing fairly well right now. And Ms. Davis at Camden County High School said that Wednesday, January 5th through Monday, January 10th, the high school averaged 4 to 6 staff members out each day with approximately 1 to 2 subs per day in the building. And Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, we only had 2 staff members out each day and 1 sub. So she's had to do some juggling to cover some classes as well. And Ms. Stevens at the early college said that they have not had any problems with it since returning this semester. But she does have a teacher that's going to be out for 3 days next week. And she said, I'm just not sure what the substitute situation is there. So I felt like it was important to share that with you all because I know that you had asked about that in the past. So that's where we are as far as numbers are concerned. What questions can I answer for you for your discussion?
I was able to see, I think we're all are through our Google Drive, the numbers from GPS. I don't think we have access to the other schools. It looked like most of them are still at-home exposure, the vast majority. Are we still keeping up with that for each school? What in school versus out of school exposures?
Yes, I think the nurses are keeping up with that.
I tried to look at that last night myself to get an update, and
To those Google Docs?
yes,
I think you can
I
see
think we can
GPS.
see the central office.
You can see GPS.
CIS and GPS.
Okay.
The others were not.
All right. So
I'll
I
let
will
them
work to
share
get
them
you
on.
all access to that. I thought you had access to all of them.
We
But
did it one
We did
time.
at
We
one
did.
point.
Okay.
Not sure.
Okay. All right. I'll check on that for you.
I went to GPS and the high school today to talk to the nurses, just to figure out, I wanted to hear from them. GPS, I think from the best she could explain, I'd say 99% of what's quarantined there has been home exposure. The high school's a little different. They've got some athletic exposures that it's happened 2 or 3 times now, just the congregate setting, playing in a gym, volleyball, basketball, it's bound to be a little different for them. But outside of that, I don't think most of it has come from true school exposure. The high school kids are going to go see each other after hours. They're going to go out on the weekends, hang out. We can't police it, control it. But the majority of what I've seen from them, and I think Kevin had talked to the middle school nurse, it has been home exposure or out of school exposure. I don't think it's most has been out of school exposure. I'm gonna leave it there.
I still don't think it's a good idea to not mask when the cases are climbing like they are right now. You guys knew what I was going to say.
That's why we strongly encourage
Well, if they hit the 10%, because I'm assuming it's going to happen, maybe, because it's already happening with masks, whatever. This thing is contagious, I guess. It's a newer one. But have y'all talked about what would be the trigger to let them come back off? Would it be like 6%, 5%? I mean, we left that up to y'all.
We'd have to go, it would have to drop below the 10%.
Yeah, but I
is
mean,
what our
at
assumption.
what buffer level? I mean,
Are we
obviously
talking
at
1%
9.5, you
or-
wouldn't go right back.
Yeah, it's, drop it down back to
What were you-
5%, 6%.
We left that up to y'all, staff, so I didn't know if y'all had even thought about that yet. Or
You left when to go back out of masks up to staff?
didn't we?
So
I mean, we didn't specify a number. So I didn't, or do we need to specify a number for you? I guess is what I'm asking.
So the assumption on my part
As
was
soon as it's below 10.
if it hits 10%, it's mask required. If it goes below 10%, it's back to mask
Okay.
optional. The worry that I have with that
I didn't want
is
that
what
bouncing
I've
back and
said all
forth too hard.
along
Yeah.
is the back and forth and the bouncing.
Yeah. I think
So-
if you go to 9%, you go back, you might, like, especially at early college, where one kid's going to be that one person who's going to be that 9 to 10%. You might be like, optional, just flopping back and forth like crazy. So you might want to
If
put a
quarantine time's 5 days, if we made it a week after dropping below the threshold,
That should cycle
Okay.
out most of
that
it.
would give a buffer.
a week. Okay, I got you. A week after getting below 10.
So if it drops back below 10%, 1 week later, we go back to masks optional.
If it remains.
If it, as long, yes. Right.
After it's been below 10%. Right. If it pumps back up 2 days later, it starts over again.
Okay.
Because I'm with you, I don't want the,
Yeah,
especially like
bouncing.
the early college is the big one because literally one kid can switch them
Yeah.
back
I
and
mean,
forth.
that was the hope
left
with
and
this
right.
tight policy is to keep it from flip flopping back and forth.
Yep.
Yeah, if you give it a week,
Yeah, that should let everything cycle through pretty well. I will say, talking to the nurses that I did today, that they are not as high as they were in September when we had that first, I guess, the Delta or epsilon or whatever,
Yeah, Delta was.
whatever the heck
yeah.
they're calling that wave. We're not where we were then. So we're not as high now as we were actually, at least at those two schools. They're not at the numbers we had in September. It was worse then. So
They will be.
they're always gonna be if we keep. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying, but
It's there has to be an increase somewhere. We keep moving goalposts and yeah, we strongly encourage masking. I don't think any of us up here have wavered from that. We encourage the kids to go to school with a mask on and the parents to understand that if they're not wearing a mask, they don't get that benefit of not quarantining if
Yeah.
they're exposed like they do wearing a mask. All that's been communicated at this point. Let the parents decide what they want for their kids, is my feeling.
And if assuming we're staying with the route
And
we're
we
on,
have a backstop built in so that we're not going to wipe out.
we might want to recommunicate that tomorrow. I don't know if y'all could send something out or that, hey, I'm just assuming that we're going to stay with what we're staying with, that we would let them know that if you don't wear your, we're still strongly encouraging you wear your mask. And if you
they're
don't,
not, they don't have that benefit.
you will get
That's
quarantined.
built
You
into
run the risk of
toolkit,
getting
yeah, that they don't have to quarantine if they're asymptomatic. If they're not wearing a mask and they're exposed, they're quarantined.
just reemphasize that rule that we put in place, that if you're wearing your mask properly, you won't get quarantined. If you're not, sick yourself.
Okay.
So did we change anything from last month that we need to suspend?
We just added that 1 week. thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we still new because we still have to,
We still got to do it for this month
we
anyway.
still got to do it for this month.
All right, make a motion that we suspend policy 2420 to allow for the mask mandate to be updated.
Mr. Purcell has made a motion that we suspend policy 2420 for the sole purpose of to enact face covering policy updates.
I got a quick question for our attorney. That state law that went into effect that says we have to discuss this every month, that was if masks were not optional. Now that our masks are
That
optional,
was period. You had to do it either way.
you sure? Okay, I thought I read it where it said if you didn't, if you made masks mandatory, you had to do it.
No. It was, the
I just wanna
requirement was require each board to do it every month, so you can think about whatever your policy was.
Okay.
And do you think our nurses are gonna have enough time for all of this contact tracing with the,
Well, they're doing it now.
They've
they
been
are,
doing it in
but there's gonna
September.
be more exposures
They're
too.
not contact tracing as many as they were in September last year.
I mean, they're still doing it now.
They're
It's like
still
if the
doing
kids weren't
contact
wearing their
tracing.
masks, even though masks are mandatory now, some kids still aren't wearing them properly and they're still quarantining them because they weren't wearing their mask properly. So they're still contact trace. As far as I know, the nurses I've talked to
Yeah.
are still
The ones
doing
I
it.
got,
And if
they're
you weren't
still
wearing your
doing
mask
it,
properly,
yeah.
you're still gone. Even now that it's mandatory. Still quarantined. So
Have you gotten any feedback on people being able to get tested, access to testing?
I can tell you.
Oh, I know it is.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just-
think that people are having a hard time. Well, I know I've dealt with a couple of staff members this week who could not get tested, but they had symptoms, and so we went with you
assume.
should assume that it's positive then, yeah. And then I think a couple of them have been able to go to drive places and get some testing, but I don't think it has been as easy as it once was to get their hands on a test.
There was, I don't know if it was from NCSBA or Ed News or somebody, there was an email came out a day or two ago that they're going to release I want to say it was 100 million at-home test kits or that type of testing to each state for specifically for school districts to help.
On the federal level, they said
500 million.
500
That's part
million.
of that amount, but he's been saying that since September.
but then they said they wouldn't be ready until March or April.
Well, we can't even get them as a medical facility
you
right
can't
now,
trust
so
that.
how are you gonna? pass
No,
that?
I'm saying there's supposedly a stream coming just for the educational side to help
Yeah.
get.
But that's part of the same 500 million
Yeah.
that the federal government promised in
I know.
September that has never showed up. So.
NCSBA said it's got to be right.
Well, yeah, it's promised from the federal government, but it don't mean it's going to show up.
We got a motion on the floor to suspend policy 2420.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Heath.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You're done with that.
Any consideration of any policy changes?
We need to add in the
The 1 week.
1 week, going back to optional, 1 week after dropping back below 10% at any individual school.
So we're gonna add the language, the motion to add the language to be below 10, to go back to mask optional, to be below 10% for 5 calendar days.
Say that again.
Which is saying, if you go above 10% and your mask, right,
1 week.
required,
Yeah. 5 calendar days,
You go
that's not our
5
quarantine
calendar
period then?
days.
You have to.
under 10% to go back to mask optional.
Are we following that
Wouldn't
new?
you, wouldn't you technically go 7?
I think the CDC said 5 days. Is that what we're
I'm
doing?
just saying on the weekend. I mean,
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying clarify a number of days.
Well, it's
Because if it
attached to the
falls over
quarantine.
a weekend, are you gonna count the 2 weekend days or are you gonna use school days?
Well, what are we doing?
if you use 5 days or 7 days, it still would carry you to the next week.
Correct.
But there's a big difference between 7 calendar days, 5 calendar days, and 5 business days.
Yeah, 5 calendar days, you might only miss 3 days of school.
Yeah, if you get quarantined, if you go on Thursday,
There's a big
Friday,
difference
Saturday,
there.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you're back on Tuesday. You've only missed 2 days of school.
So what are we doing? Like right now, if a kid gets quarantined, is it 5 days, 5 calendar days?
Right now.
5
We're
days.
following the toolkit right now, 5 days.
5 calendar days,
And then 5 days when you come back with a mask.
right?
Yeah.
So then 5 days would cover that 10% because those people that were out for the 5 days are back now. So you've recovered that. So the 5 calendar days make sense to me.
Yeah.
Based on what we're quarantining, the way we're quarantining,
Okay.
right? I mean,
That's why I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure we're,
so when you got back below
We're on the
10%,
same
all those
page.
people should be back because it's been 5 calendar days.
Yeah.
They should.
if they did develop something. Yeah.
Well, yes, if they didn't develop something.
The only thing, think out loud, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
So they could come
It
back.
still wouldn't be Monday until you made the decision.
What do you mean?
So if you hit the threshold on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's 6 days.
Right, that's on
You wouldn't make the
Tuesday.
decision until the 7th day.
But let's say it's on a Thursday today.
Well,
So now you're Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you're only at 5 days.
So you
That's
would
what I'm
make-
saying. It's,
You would make the decision Wednesday, and then so Thursday they could not have to wear a mask again if you were there.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lag. I mean, you got to go 5 full days, then you reevaluate your number on the 6th day, and on the 7th day you could make this. That's when the switch would happen. I mean, it's not going to be instantaneous because you got to evaluate the data.
that's right. So, so if you go 5 days, you're
5 calendar days is still going to take 7 days to
To
get
enact
it
it,
enacted. You need the 6th day to evaluate the data, and then it's enacted on the 7th. If it's
Okay.
the way I would see it.
and I'm seeing it as in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's not a good one. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday's day 5. They know it 8:00 in the morning on Tuesday that's their 5th day of being back below the numbers. The principal's calling central office at 9:00 in the morning saying, "Hey, we're back below. We're on day 5. Can we go back to mask optional tomorrow?" They're putting that announcement out that afternoon. It's not going to take them 2 days to cycle back through. They're going to know by 8 when they turn in all their power school stuff at 9:00 that they're back under the threshold on day 5. They're going to be wanting to unmask the next day.
Does the first day count? Though? So like the
No,
kids.
that's what I'm saying. If we start on Thursday, you got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Tuesday morning, that's a full day. But at the end of the day, it'll be the full day, but they'll know that morning how many people they have out. They're already going to be asking, so it would start back on Wednesday.
I mean, if they can push it like that, they can get the numbers crunched and everything and get it out
And
that fast.
they've got to have their classroom attendance turned in by 9:30, whatever on Power School, so they should pretty well know. Which I'm fine with. I'm just saying, I don't think it's gonna take 2 extra days to get them back to mask optional.
Yeah, but that is
That's what
like,
you're
like she
counting
says
on,
with her
adding the extra
contract
day.
tracing, if the day before was they had a bunch and they need to tally that up. Because it's based on the quarantines, not necessarily attendance. It's based on who the nurses know that they have out quarantined is the real number. So, but I mean, if they have enough time, either way, it's 5 calendar days, and then it's just logistics, what the schools can accomplish. Whether if it takes them if they can get it out immediately, or it takes them 1 day lag, either way is fine with me. Whatever logistically works for the school.
So 5 calendar days.
Well, I'm just saying, I know sometimes the nurses are here, one of them till 7 o'clock at night doing quarantine, so that might not be something you would know at 9:30.
So the end of day 5, you know.
That's what I was thinking. At the end of day 5, they would know. Then the 6th day, they could put out the notice, which direction they're going based on that data, whether we're staying or I mean, if you're staying, I guess you just don't make an announcement.
Yeah,
But
you
if you're coming back, then you can make that announcement on day 6, and then so 7, you come back no mask, I guess. Or I
And it's
mean,
not like it would be like a next day decision, because if that number, let's just say on Monday, GPS is at 68, and the next day they're 67 again, and the next day they're 69. There's still 5 days from the end of that last high mark.
if you're teetering,
Yeah.
you might want to just err on the side of caution. If you're that tight, like 9.9%, just keep counting.
5 days.
5 days, yeah.
I'm fine with whichever. I just don't want any more ambiguity that
Right.
the nurses are gonna have to figure out, am I on day 5, am I on day 4?
Yeah.
Cut and dry it. This is what it says. Move on.
So, Mr. Purcell, your motion is to amend our face covering policy for clarification that school cannot return to mask optional unless they are below 10% for 5 consecutive calendar days.
Correct.
That is your motion.
It was Dr. Banks's motion. It was just clear.
Well, that was, we can make it Dr. Banks's motion.
5 days after it drops below the threshold.
Yeah.
5 consecutive days below 10%
Yes.
quarantine.
And to go mask optional as of 18.
Stays the
Well, that
same.
stays the same.
That's already in. Yep. Just making it.
All right, so if I made the motion.
Yeah, you made a motion.
All right.
Okay. And you seconded it. Mr. Purcell seconded it. Dr. Banks made the motion. Mr. Purcell made the second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor to the amendment, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Attorney, would that suffice for our review of the policy?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You even took action to make a modification. You're not required to take action. But
Right.
I think it is best every month when you review it to still take action,
Still
not
take
to make
action.
changes. So you have a record that the manager can consider.
All right. Item C, resolution in support of in-person instruction and ending the requirement to exclude healthy students from school.
So at some point in the past, you all had asked about this. I can't remember which one of you asked about it. Maybe it was, I think it was, might have been you, Dr. Banks, but, and so in trying to sort of figure this thing out, another county out there in the state figured it out for us, sent it out to everyone and asked that we we consider having our boards of education vote to approve this resolution. And so, like most resolutions, you get all the whereas and, and so that's talking about, the current COVID situation, in-person instruction. There are a number of things, but at the end where it says, now therefore in consideration of these and other relevant matters, the Camden County Board of Education hereby calls upon the state of North Carolina, the North Carolina Commission for Public Health, and the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services to take whatever actions are necessary to end the requirement that healthy asymptomatic individuals be excluded from school on or before January 18th, 2022. So I'm bringing that to you all for consideration for approval to send in with a number of other districts across the state. I don't know that it will change anything, but at least they will know where you stand if this is where you stand.
Is it the same resolution that multiple districts?
It started in Randolph County schools, and then it has kind of spread from there. Yeah.
We're sending this to Cooper or DPI.
I think it goes to Health and Human Services.
Health and Human Services.
Yeah.
It goes to Mandy and Cooper. I'll make a motion to
Second.
approve it. Send it.
So we have a motion to approve a resolution in support of in-person instruction and ending the requirement to exclude healthy students from school. Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. SO3 Fund Premium Pay Bonus, PRC 203. Ms. Sally Norfleet.
In Session Law 2021-180, Section 7.27A34, funds were allocated to public schools to administer a one-time lump sum bonus of $1,000 no later than January 31st, 2022, to every qualifying teacher and who, as of January 1st, 2022, is employed as a teacher. A qualifying teacher is defined as teachers and instructional support personnel who participate in one or more trainings between March 12th, 2020 and January 1st, 2022 that address the mitigation of COVID-19 in public schools, learning loss resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, or virtual instruction needed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. No later than January 31st, 2022, the governing body of the unit will define criteria for determining whether a teacher is a qualifying teacher and the standards for determining whether the employee has completed a training that meets the requirements of the session law. So I know in your packet I have kind of like the criteria saying all teachers and instructional support provided remote instruction full-time once schools were closed in North Carolina beginning on March 16, 2020, and for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year. From the beginning of the 2020-2021 school year and up to January 1st, 2022, all teachers and instructional support have attended one or more trainings on the following subjects: cleaning and disinfecting for COVID-19 in schools, Google Classrooms, Canvas training, remote instruction training. Based on this criteria, all teachers would be qualified and able to receive the one-time lump sum bonus of $1,000. So this has to be voted on, the criteria, in order to give this bonus. But PRC 203 is the allotment providing the funding for this bonuses. The amount of the funds is not sufficient to cover the cost of the bonuses for 100% of the qualifying teachers. Our allotment is $130,317, which will only cover 77% of the bonuses because our bonuses are over $169,000. The shortfall of $38,693.50 will have to be covered by local funds to provide the state mandated bonuses for all teachers that qualify.
You got that? We would have that covered, you think? got that savings somewhere else? Or?
And we can, most districts are using their ESSER funds to cover the difference.
Uh-huh.
So I can hope that we find it in local, and if not, I can use ESSER funds. I'd rather not use ESSER funds because we did not get as much as other public school units got. But
if we had to, we could use the
yes,
ESSER funds.
yeah. So if I saw like in May, hey, I'm not going to be able to cover that difference, then I could resubmit our ESSER 3 application to amend it to
I think
cover.
Someone had brought it too. We're saving some money with that, the nurse grant
Mhm.
money too, so we could probably
Right.
reallocate that towards
Right,
Okay. The money that we're not spending on nurses
right.
because of that grant.
The understanding is every unit in the county, in the state was short what they needed to make this.
Right, yeah. They had
the
said
legislation
approximately
made money,
80%.
and then, then-
Yeah, they had come back, they had done it, and then they came back and said, oh, we're only giving like 80%. But when I figured it, we only got 77%.
You got another question?
Yeah, I just, listened to you and then reading this again, I just had a
It's good.
clarifying question, and if I missed it, please set me straight, Ms. Northleaf. But this criteria talks about teachers and instructional support providing time periods in March 16, 2020, and the remainder.
Right, technically, it's from
Does that
the,
include people that were employed then? And
no,
might have
they
retired,
have to
or
be
not being
employed.
currently employed?
No, they have to have done, the session law says March 20th of 2020 to January 1st, but our schools close on the 16th. But in order to receive the bonus, you have to be employed here as of January 1st, 2022. So if we had a teacher leave and go to another district during that time, not retired, but if they're still working in another district, then that district can elect, as long as they're employed January 1st, 2022, they can elect to give that teacher a bonus, knowing that they've had this training over the past year and a half, almost 2 years.
So currently employed.
Currently employed as of January 1st, 2022.
Okay, that's good. Answer my question.
And I just need the action taken of what you're saying as a qualifying teacher, yes, for Camden County Schools to receive the bonus.
So my recommendation is that you approve the qualifications for a qualifying teacher to receive the bonus as explained by Ms. Northleaf.
Motion by Ms. Ida to accept the superintendent's recommendation to define a qualified teacher as presented by Ms. Northleaf. Seconded by Mr. Heath. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. New record retention requirements, Superintendent Farrell.
Yeah, so the North Carolina School Boards Association has sent out a special notice that contains important information regarding a number of things, but one of those for your consideration tonight is updates to the records and retention, to the records retention and disposition schedules. Records like academic, there are some academic records included, human resources records included, financial records, and so on. Tonight, what I'm asking for is your approval of the actual schedules that we included in your board meeting package so that we can begin following these schedules as required.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Purcell to accept the superintendent's recommendation to follow the records retention and disposition schedule as presented by local government agents, for local government agencies.
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Banks. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Budget timeline, Superintendent Farrell.
Yes, we shared in your board package a budget timeline. for the 22-23 school year. Remember, that always starts at the end of January, planning for the budget for next year, next school year. That would begin with Ms. Norfleet issuing handbooks to cabinet principals and directors on January 31st, 2022, which would kick off the budget season. You can see that there are, last year was the first time that we heavily involved our teacher advisory and classified advisory councils in those, in that timeline and in those discussions. And then you can see sort of in the middle of the page there when departments and principals can come in and share their budget requests. And then the budget requests would be due on February 25th. You all would receive them on March 10th. We tonight need to set a date for the budget work session. And then you can see that other thing, and then of course, prior to the April 14th board meeting where we would seek approval of the budget. And then there are some things that just haven't been determined yet, like when it will be due to the county manager, when it will be presented to the county commissioners. And then depending on when that is, we would actually decide when to communicate budget to all staff, which is the final part of our timeline. So for tonight, I need from you a date for the board work session for budget, and then I would request your approval of the budget timeline.
Thank you, sir. If we could do the date first, that way we could insert it into the timeline and approve it at one time.
Sally, can you remind us when we did that last year?
We did it the Thursday after, the Wednesday or Thursday after the board meeting.
After the March board meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
They got their packet.
Yeah, so the March board meeting is on the 10th.
St. Patrick's Day. Or Wednesday.
We're on 16th.
16th, yeah, I can do the 16th.
What time?
16th work.
6. What
March
time can you
16th.
be there?
I can do earlier. I can get
5?
I get done at 3 at that.
5 o'clock. Can y'all do 5?
Christian? 5 o'clock?
Sure.
Good to me.
March 16th.
March 6th, so we're going to insert March 16th, 2022 at 5 PM at the central office.
Okay. All right.
Dr. Farrell would like a motion to approve the budget timeline as presented with the addition of March 16th, 2022 at 5 PM central office for budget work session.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Purcell to accept the superintendent's budget timeline with the, as presented with the addition of budget work session date of March 16th, 2022, 5 PM central office.
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Banks. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent's recommendation for closed session.
I recommend that you approve the personnel report that I presented to you in closed session.
Motion by Ms. Adler to accept the superintendent's recommendation for employment as presented in closed session.
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Banks. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Does anyone have any announcements? Does anyone have any future agenda items? I have one, Dr. Farrell. As I was in Raleigh last night and all over the news, they were talking about a governor's order about state employees are given, can't remember if it's 24 or some amount of hours for volunteering in schools,
To serve
bus
as substitutes.
drivers, cafeteria workers, where they will still get paid on their regular job.
And as a substitute.
and receive substitute pay. Could you look into, is there any criteria
I
that we
sent that
need
to you in the
to?
text, and I don't know if you saw it, John. But,
The article was that was the state employees.
Yeah.
Yeah,
state employees.
state employees.
And so you mobilize the National Guard to do the same thing.
Don't joke, John.
Yeah.
Already doing it.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if there was any background checks that we need to make sure are done, if people are looking to volunteer or want to
Well, they'd have to
volunteer.
be,
So this
that
is,
they're ready to go on the day they need to volunteer.
yeah, this is hot off the press, and we have to start working on it.
Okay,
So, but
so you're aware of it,
it's
that's
probably
good.
primarily like DOT employees. I'm guessing they have to have a CDL and all that stuff, I'm assuming, right?
What it, yeah, well, I
In
mean,
each state.
they can be classroom substitutes, they can be.
Oh, it's not just
cafeteria
bus.
workers,
Okay.
not just bus.
Anything,
Substitute
okay.
teachers.
yeah, well, my first question was,
Don't laugh
well,
background
what do we
check.
have to do about that? Do we assume that they, so there are a lot of unanswered questions about how that would work. But
Yeah.
it would definitely need to be,
Well, I'm assuming that state agency would have to
future
approve it, right? Because they could be in a hurt too right now.
Well, it's still, they said it still has to be approved by their
Their
supervisor.
supervisor, okay.
But he's authorizing them to give them that leave. Actually,
Yes.
he's directing them.
Yeah, basically.
If they can.
But you're aware of it,
They have to get
I'm good, you're working on it.
yeah, we will need to get it on a future agenda though, yes.
Okay. Anyone else have any future agenda items, other discussion? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Purcell, seconded by Dr. Banks to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Uh,
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all.